Hello, Army.
Hi.
Sarangay apawang po.
Hi everyone. Hi everyone.
Hello, everyone. And this is our last show of the evening. And here's a picture of the boys. Yay! Because I have to show you happy pretty. Ugh, I literally love this picture. Absolutely adore this picture. This is them in 2014, 2013. Ugh, I love that jacket shoot so much. How's everyone doing? Thank you. I'm so happy Joanna was able to make it. Yay! Woohoo! That's cool. This has been an interesting day. The shows have been really, I didn't expect us to have a lot of our views and stuff because everyone is at Army Day events right now. But we've managed to have a good 100 something per most of the shows, which is pretty good actually for live views. So hey everyone, as you know, we are living Bangtan 7, and this is our last show of the evening, 11 p.m. We're going to go all the way through with the hopes that we're going to be able to get Beyond the Story live. Terry and I both have it in our little shopping carts that say that it's coming anytime soon. So hopefully one of us will get the audio version pretty soon. And we're talking about, you know how the boys always say, hello, we are BTS. So this show is called Beyond the Story, Hello, We Are BTS ARMY. And we're focusing on love and fate, F-A-T-E, not F-A-I-T-H. We spoke a lot about faith in other words in the last 3 shows and last 3 or 4 shows. This show, we're talking about love and fate. And it took me a while in listening to the boys' stories to really get something to click in my head, even after years. But it wasn't until I listened to this, which was Namjoon's interview with Cold. He says something here. Well, he's always profound, so I don't have to say that. But he says something here that is what decided literally this show. It is how I chose this show. It's because of what he says in this show, in this interview, the subtleness of it. And I thought really a lot about how it's something that the boys in general, I believe that they've adopted as a personal edict. And you see what you tell me what you think as we go through. And there's a series of questions, Army, that we're going to talk about. The majority of them are really about our personal perspective on our journey and how we have become a symbiotic engine as BTS ARMY. Because when the boys are introducing themselves and say, "안녕하세요, Bangtan Jongji," when they say this, they're literally bringing us along with them every single time they say those words. Because there's no BTS without us, there's no us without them. And so I thought about it. If we should all introduce ourselves to each other going, hello, we are BTS ARMY, because it just makes sense. Isn't that funny? I think the boys would love it. If that became our thing. Yeah. Hello. And so, yeah, BTS ARMY. I think we should start doing that on the show. Okay, Joanna, we got it. That's it. We're doing it. It took them forever.
Can I bother you 1 second, Nisha?
Yeah,
we have Jin.
What?
Says new.
I just sent you yesterday. Where's our message? Okay, go ahead. Put it up. Sorry, guys. This is important stuff. Oh, he's so pretty.
라이브 연습을 하고 있어요. 지금 여기 보시면 굉장히 멋있는 장비들, 이거 다 저희 메인 프로듀서인 피도 PD님의 귀중한 장비입니다. 저희 여기 PD님 계신데 어떻게 인사라도 한번 도와주시죠. 저는 지금 프로넛 무대 준비를 위해 저희 피도 PD님하고 아미의 날이 있지 않습니까? 라이브 연습을 하고 있어요. 지금 굉장히 멋있는 장비.
Careful about playing it live.
Yep. Okay.
피도피디님도 귀중한 장비들입니다. 저희 피디님 계신데 어떻게
Keep the
인사를
volume down. Sorry about that. We don't want to get hit with copyright. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
여러분 7월에 또 아미의 날이 있지 않습니까? 여기
Oh my God, he's so.
이거 찍고 있을 때는 볼 수 있어요. 지금 여러분들이 진짜 너무 보고 싶겠죠? 그리고 여러분들도 저를 많이 보고 싶어. 지금 연습을 하고 있고 어쨌든 영상 교수니까 지금 데뷔. 네, 저도 이거를 아마 지금 연습을 하고 있고요. 저도 이거를 아마 풀릴 때마다 보고 있을 테지만 이거를 보고 있으면 진짜 공연을 너무나도 하고 싶겠죠, 여러분. 제가 저 콘서트가 끝난 지 얼마 안 됐는데 쇼핑스가 끝난 지 얼마 안 됐는데 여러분들이 너무나 그리울 것 같습니다. 제가 이거를 보고 있을 때쯤 이명 공연이 너무나도 그리울 것 같아요. 여러분들 파이팅 하시고 그러면 저는 또 다음 달에 찾아온다 인사를 드리도록 하겠습니다. 잘생긴 얼굴 잊지 마십시오. 안녕.
Did we finish?
Yep.
I was just telling my kids, I was just telling them that I was, I mean, I miss Sikjin all the time, but
Well, he had to come for Army Day.
of course he did.
Jin
No.
is so sweet. He's so
Yeah.
sweet. Like his hair's so long. Imagine like how many pre-recordings he did before entering
Right.
the enlistment. That is just so
Right.
sweet. And then RM during Festa saying that like next year Jin would have to fulfill the role because they're probably all gonna be in their enlistments, in their services, and he's going to be out.
Right.
And so it's just going to be him, and it's such a huge role to fill for all the rest of the Brotherhood, you know, and it's just so sweet for him to do this.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I think I was feeling 2 seconds of like what's next year going to be like. It's not that I don't even know why I'm emotional, except if anyone knows me, you know, it's because of Jin. So, oof, of course. This is
Sorry, I had to.
Oh my goodness, my boy. Yeah, of course. Okay, get yourself together, woman. I have this visceral response to this man, so it's really interesting. I've been like this with him since the get-go, since the first time I saw him in Hobie. I've always been like this with the boys. When I said to you, I have this connection with them, when I said on the show before, remember, Flora, how we were saying it's just all we had to do is look in their eyes the first time and it just completely lit everything up around you. And it was just so pure and absolute. That's the word, absolute. There was no questioning it. And I don't think I have felt like that about pretty much anybody, to be honest with you, in terms of someone who was bringing me entertainment. So it was unusual to get that kind of a reaction. And I always thought, I used to fight and challenge myself and think, you're being ridiculous. You're being silly. They're just 7 boys. What's wrong with you, you know? But forever, we're 10 years later, and they still do this. It hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. You know, I kept thinking this is going to stop. Something's going to change. Something's going to be different. So I was just talking to my daughters about it, and my daughter and her spouse, her wife, And how I was feeling about the boys was very different right now, unusual, and I wasn't sure what it was. So I thought that maybe the show would give me even clarity, because I think sometimes we have to go through change, and the change means also perspective and like your purpose. So I'm sorry, I wasn't going to talk about this. I don't even know where it came from. It's just what's been on my mind, I think, most of the day. And then I talked to the girls about it, and they were like, well, what is it? Because my daughter-in-law asked me, she's like, Mom, you know, how do you feel about the boys right now? Because she said that's a gauge of how you're feeling about you. And I was like, this child knew that. How does she know that? That was pretty astounding to me, because they know how much they mean in my wellness, you know? So I'm just sharing. There's my story, guys. That's been my rest break. My rest break was talking to them, and then them asking me where I am, you know, my changes in life for the next year, how it's going to be changing, and where do I see my relationship with the boys basically going forward. And I thought about the fact that my daughter-in-law is asking me that question as a true question about my own self, about my own life journey. And I was like, how grateful am I to have these children who understand me so well and support me in this. It's crazy, you know? So, and I was like, I haven't heard from Jen yet, but when I do, I'll feel better. So that's why I'm like this. Terry will tell you, I have this habit of putting something out in the world, and
I was just going to say, you have to stop manifesting them to show up during our shows, though. I think we've had at least half of them show up. JK sleeping, Sugar doing his thing, Jin, now, you know.
And Hobie posting.
Yep.
Middle of a show. So we've had 7 of them show up during the show now. That was crazy.
It's so funny because every time I come on, one of them pops up.
Yeah.
Do you notice that? I'm like, but you were talking about today's topic, which is love and faith, and who else is better to come on about love and faith than Jin, I think. Yeah.
He's the core. He's always been the core of that. And I think I was saying, and Tessa, when we had a conversation the other day when we were first meeting, remember I said how I thought that Army was so taken aback when Jin was going in, and then there was this huge collective grief moment and sadness. And I think in a moment in December, when we all found out, not people who are, obviously I adore him and I adore all of them, but I think a lot of people who didn't realize how much he meant to them in those moments started to feel strong levels of just grief, a separation. And I remember I was saying to you, I think a massive amount of Army didn't expect that to happen. And all of a sudden they found that there was a connection to him that was probably a summation of the connection to all of them. You remember I was saying that? And I was like, well, I don't think it. I think it's that. It must be the truth then, you know, because of, does that make sense? Hey. Yeah? I think this boy always, he knows. He knows. And what he wrote is a line of songs for Army who became Sukjin's universe. Sukjin in July, lovers of Army, singing Sukjin, don't forget your handsome face. Don't forget my handsome face. That's what he said. Don't worry, kid. Nobody's forgetting that handsome face. That's not happening. So, yeah, the show, I'm okay about being emotional on the show. If you've watched it, you're aware that I don't care. I'm okay with it because it's what the show is about, right? It's about unearthing and uncovering parts of yourself, you know, and having those epiphanies. quote unquote. So, okay. So today's show, let me probably go in and actually read like I'm supposed to. So as an audio version of the book is preparing to be dropped, we're having an open discussion about the future of BTS and ARMY and how their concept and philosophy of love has been a guiding principle for our relationship. And Jin literally exemplified it by coming on as we spoke. And as you know, we are a living Bangtan 7, and our entire model is about world building, positive, safe, healthy world building, creating safe and cathartic spaces for ARMY and anyone who needs to hear these words, for anyone who didn't have anywhere else to turn, a place for rest and respite. And so, hello everyone, and Borehe ARMY, and welcome to episode, good Lord, I think this is episode 33 of Living Bangtan 7. And as you know, we are a platform that the Diversely Geek team created to bring you wellness discussions content based on the healing positive messages of Bangtan Sonyedan. And the name literally means living bulletproof 24/7. And our purpose is to help us all learn how to live confidently with self-love throughout the day, protected by the support and love of BTS and ARMY. And LB7 is a reminder of the power of the bulletproof or Bangtan philosophy has as a source of healing, coping, and support when we are struggling to believe in ourselves. So welcome everyone, and thank you so much for being on today. Yay, hi! I love that we have a few people on right now. So this is Joanna and Tessa. It's your first time together, yeah? Yay! So do you guys want to do a quick intro again? Because for Joanna and Tessa, for ARMY who doesn't know, hasn't met you before. Tessa, go ahead.
I seem to be picking up some static. I'm sorting it out. So Joanna, you go first.
Sure. Hi, my name is Joanna. I have been an ARMY since 2017. And my bias is Shuga. I am an educator, and my main focus is on character education and certified in trauma response.
Hey, thank you. So happy you were able to make it. I got the internet working.
Finally, yay!
Okay, and I'm Tessa Lashley. My first show was the 8 o'clock show today. I'm a pretty new ARMY. Just as of last year, I got introduced to K-pop and BTS through my teen daughter, and you know, we were able to get and bond closer through that, and absolutely fell in love with the BTS message and the BTS members. And I've learned, you know, and quite a bit about them over time, and still have a lot more to learn. But just love the journey so far, and have been able to identify so much with a lot of just their journey, their experiences, their self sort of discovery, and just really enjoyed also meeting up with fellow adult ARMY, and getting to enjoy the activities and stuff that's been happening these past months. I've been lucky to really get into it for, you know, Festa and ARMY. So ARMY Day, a good time to have been enjoying much of it.
It was a great time to come on board.
Yeah.
Great time. I think that ARMY Day and Festa took the world by surprise and by storm. Seoul, Korea was just, I mean, the media presence was massive. And there are over 300,000 ARMY who came just to sit there, who didn't even win the tickets. They just came and sat together. That's it. It gives you the vibes back to Woodstock. It gives you the vibes back to a love fest, you know, of what it is to come together just in a positive environment, in a positive, safe space. 300,000 people. How many people just sat quietly? There were no fights. There were no breakouts. Everyone was calm. Everyone was peaceful. Everyone was fed, and they were there for 7 and 8 hours waiting, if not more than that. If I'm not mistaken, my friend said some people were there for over 14 hours. So kind of like it was for Busan. And I looked at that stream every time I watched a stream, and I thought, this is us. This is what the world can be like. Because that's the concept of that symbiotic love, that we've been talking about most of this day. Um, an army sitting together from all across the world sat in peace, you know. So peace is a thing that can happen when you put love first. So,
And on an eco-friendly note, they cleaned up their mess.
they all cleaned up their mess. They absolutely did. Which is the same thing we did off the Lollapalooza. Did you know that? We all, a massive amount of us stayed back and picked up all the garbage. The Lollapalooza staff where they were dumbfounded at how organized we were and how little mess we left behind, considering we were 100,000 people. Yeah, I'm still reeling from getting Hobie's post last night overnight, waking up out in the middle of the night, and there it was in front of me, and I was like, he had just posted. I somehow always manage to wake up just when when they post. And his message was absolutely beautiful. It was a message of love as well. Jin's message is a message of love again. I can't wait to see what they're, obviously the rest of them are going to give us, something soon. So let's talk a little bit about, first of all, we're going to talk a little bit more about Seven today and how I believe JK is actually literally walking us through a path of, it's going to be love. Nothing else. I don't expect anything else from him. It's going to be about love. And how I believe that the book is also an open dialogue between the seven members and us. So I feel that the book was written for us to have, for them to communicate directly to us. And then when I read the description, the one that dropped yesterday, because they updated it, it's exactly what it says. It says it's a dialogue between our BTS and ARMY. So they wrote it in that way. And so then we're also going to talk a little bit about how the book becomes a source of connection as we move forward, and they're all moving towards their military service, and how love and faith is going to be something that comes into play a lot for us to stay supported as we move forward in the next year and a half to 2 years, because now we officially have 2 years, technically, to wait. It's daunting. But in a year we'll have Jin, and 4 months after that we'll have Hobie back, and then we don't know because we don't know what the rest of them are doing. But so let's talk a little bit about the concept of love and fate and BTS. And I would like each of you to give me your concept of why love and fate and BTS and ARMY go together as a unit. And how has having love from them helped us in order to be able to find our own love and understand what fate is versus having faith. That's a big question. But you know me, I don't ask simple questions. Joanna, want to jump on?
Yeah, for sure. Today I was just thinking about the difference between authenticity and acceptance. I mean, they go hand in hand together. And I just remember that when I was reading through Love and Faith, you were talking about it. I think one of the most beautiful things about BTS and ARMY is that throughout this entire journey for 10 years, our boys have remained
Oh,
all their messages just speak of how real they are, and um, I think that's one of the things that made Army love them more is because of the way that they present themselves. It's, they're like we were just talking about at the beginning of the show, how Jin would just come in and he's the same. Our boys are all the same 10 years ago, and they're still coming in the same way, and it just shows how authentic they are, and it's their authenticity in loving Army that allows us to to accept that love and accept their messages, and because their messages are also so authentic, it's how do I say it so well? We're accepting their messages because it's so authentic,
Mm-hmm.
and they're accepting our love for them because and that's just how fate plays a role. I think I love how Suga said it best too the other day. In one of his interviews, he said, um, I think he said it during the Sutrita. He said, I have this um, letter from an army, and or he that army was just in, like, I think in elementary, and now that army is in college, and I think
Mm-hmm.
singer and fans should grow together. And I think that's the most beautiful way to the summation of love and faith is that's how BTS and ARMY is. It's an equivalent acceptance and equivalent authenticity of both parties that allows us to just grow together throughout the years, and not just grow inwardly. I mean, massively too outwardly. Like our numbers are just exponentially growing, and it's amazing. I mean, JK just sold Central Park in 60 seconds. That's crazy.
Wasn't 60 seconds. It was maybe 20 because I was in there trying to grab it at the same time and got the wait list. So I didn't realize I got the wait list, but I did. But even so, I didn't expect to go. So I'm okay with that because I have to work. But of course he did. Of course they did.
Yeah.
Of course they did. Everyone would give an eye tooth to be able to be in their presence because of that energy that we keep talking about how that energy fuels us, right? It's a dynamic source of pure energy and it's pure love, and pure love fuels you. And I think I talk about that later on in the questioning about how they become a fuel source, literally. And how, so I was looking, and thank you for that answer, because fate is, in some definitions, says that it's a development of events beyond a person's control, regardless of what's been determined in the cosmic entities of the world. And Namjoon talks about fate on a regular basis now. And remember that when they were dropping Chaco last year, they were all asked about fate. That word, that single word, if you remember and you go back to those interviews, every single person's answer on fate was completely different. I thought about Hobie's. Hobie's was absolutely, he's such a pragmatic human being. He says things so very beautifully simple, but very dimensionality so that you can understand it. Do you guys remember seeing those interviews when they dropped it for Chaco before it came out? You really need to. Really need to, because that's where the concept of fate came from. Because Seven Fates Chaco is about fate and how these seven entities and these seven beings came together again multiple times from lifetime to lifetime in the series. They're coming together, and there's this unique bond that brings them together. It's not necessarily love, but yet it's the underpinning and undercurrent of love. It's a strange thing. I won't give away more because you got to watch the series to understand. Okay, so Army, please go back and read those statements. I'll see if I can find them during the show. So in that sense, does anyone else have any want to comment about that? Maybe Flor, how do you feel that love and fate plays a very important part in terms of our Army's continued support of BTS? As we move forward into this rough, this 2-year window, especially.
Yeah. When you asked the question, what came to my mind first was these past 2 months. I've been Army since 2021. I wasn't very active. I didn't know many people, many Army back then. And then I met Nisha, and everything blows up.
It did.
I remember we talked about that we were destined to meet because we met in a very unusual way and we stick together since then. But also something that happened to me when I was in Peru the last couple of months. I met a girl. I mean, she's the niece of one of my friends. My friends were like, "Who's BTS?" Like that was it like 6 months ago, maybe. They were like, something you like, okay. And now, the last month, my friend asked me a lot about BTS, and I was like, why is she asking me all these questions? Like
Yeah.
they were very deep questions, and she said, no, my niece likes them, and I'm trying to connect with her. And I met this little girl. She's 12 years old, and one thing she asked me was, how do I become an army? I want to be an army.
Aww.
I was like, I don't know. I felt so happy, and I felt like it was something meant to be. That I mean I met BTS. I became more active as army. I met all of you, and I felt like it was that was it. And it was the first time someone asked me, and someone was like, I want to be like you. But I felt this energy that I'm going to be with her, I'm going to help her, and we are in contact since then. She's doing great. About love between army and BTS, it's for me it's been something. It's a relationship. They give us, we give back, and it's something that keeps growing. For me, it keeps growing all the time. Um, I can put that in words, really, how I feel this love for them, and it's quite difficult to explain to people who is an army. So Nish,
I'm listening and I'm thinking about how the conversation we had about that particular situation. And I thought about that night when you were asking me those questions. If you'd never met me, would we have ever had the chance to give her that answer?
mm,
Would we have ever been able to give them the answer? And how was that answer that I gave going to help to shape the person's life? I thought about it so much that night. And afterwards, it was the same as me having a conversation with Tessa. And Tessa and I finding out we're both from the same, we're both from Trinidad, and we have this bond. That's something that's good because I've been thinking so strongly. And I told Terry, the BTS presence, Bangtan presence in Trinidad and the Caribbean is growing so much, but they're looking for wellness there a huge amount. They really need mental wellness. And I was like, I need Caribbean Army, I think, to help me to be able to reach out. And here you are. It's like the world manifests things when you have the positive intention behind it. So, like, that positive intention, I feel, is love and fate mixed together. you know? And I get that, and I don't just get that from them. It's not that they're the first people to teach me that, right? It's just that they're a massive example of what it is to take love and fate and put them together and always have positive intention behind what you do. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I told Flora the day that we met that we were destined to meet because we fell into this like love relationship like this. In the same way that Aisha and I did. Aisha walked straight up to me at the BTS Interdisciplinary Conference. She said, I'm going to stay with you. I know I need to stay with you. We never met each other. Not a day in our lives did we know each other. She walked straight up to me that evening and sat next to me. She says, I'm staying with you. And that's what we did, a solid week. And here we are having built this relationship together and doing this paper together. So I feel that the development of events beyond a person's these are all beyond my control. Terry says I manifest things. I think it's just fate calling. and the foundation of it is just my love. You know? Yeah, so good. And
But you manifested first, and then the fate makes it so. It's always it's slightly fated. It's fated to happen, but because you manifest it, you bring that fate to you. Because otherwise, it's just floating out in the universe for whoever wants to grab it. And your manifesting does that.
but that's the thing that can happen with any of us, any army in this world who wants to be able to take a step forward where love becomes that central focus. But it's not like I'm looking to love in a romantic way. It's not about that, right? It's about something completely different than that. It's a foundation of just being loved and accepting that and knowing that you're being loved. That is a huge ask of all of us, especially those of us who've lived through trauma, right, Joanna? To be able to accept that we have the right to be loved. You want to talk about that a little bit? Because the boys honestly live that message constantly and they say it all the time. We are
Abs-
bulletproof eternal. Isn't that what they're asking us?
yeah. they have such a they have such a strong message. Even at the United Nations, when they were talking about love yourself, and then they extended that love yourself to speak yourself. You don't just have the right to accept who your authentic self is, you also have a right to speak for yourself, your truth. And so they keep on saying that. I think one of the most beautiful things about our boys is that I remember that one time that Namjoon and Jimin, I think they were on their way to the Grammys. Was that the Grammys? I think it was the Grammys. And like Jimin kept saying, we're not celebrities. I mean, far from it.
Yes, on the
Like
way.
and and I was just like, are you crazy? Are you seriously? But that's how they think about themselves. They're just so down to earth, and they're so grounded. And that's their reality. And a lot of us can learn from that. That we are in a society where flexing is such a huge deal. We have to look huge and amazing and cool and all of that, but in a lot of respects, these boys are not afraid to be transparent about their struggles. And that makes it all beautiful, because now we can relate, and it's okay to talk about your struggles. It's okay to talk about that song that Yoongi played at the end of his concert before he just walked out, the song The Last, and he kept talking about like going to see the psychiatrist, and talking about all these. Yeah, there's just a profound message that it's okay to have all these traumas, and it's okay to accept them, but our message remains the same. Despite all of that, you can love yourself, and guess what? Not just love yourself, you can speak yourself. You have a voice. So yeah.
Love and fate. Anyone else wants to talk about that? Because that's a very big concept. Yeah, Tessa, you want to talk about that?
Sure, I want to go off that a little bit. The love, everything that's said already so beautifully, and as a new army. But when I think of love and fate for them, just for me, and just initially getting to know them and individually as a group and as their journey, what stood out for me is the love that they have for themselves, how it emerged and how it grew. Like really, really everything that they had been through as they were figuring out their own identity and their strengths, and building that up, and building that self efficacy and everything. But like, so it's the love. I was moved by the love that each one kind of had to build for themselves, their real, true, genuine inner love and acceptance of who they are within the group as well. When I think of love in that way, and when I think of fate, I always look back at how they started a little bit, and yes, they wanted to be successful, but then when they exploded and they got all those awards and everything, just talk about fate. Who would have they have thought 10 years down the line that this is where they would be, Like this is what the BTS world would have become. And that was the fate of what all that they did, and because they were so genuine and everything that they put in, that's the fate of what happened with them. And sometimes we look at ourselves and how we struggle through things and we're not sure where things are going to be, and like as you're just relaying, Nisha, for your own thing, your own fate, it comes to you after that. You never know where you're going to be or how things will turn out. And BTS, look at who they are now, that how I've gotten to know them and everything. When I think of love and hate, just something a little different to sort of what has been said before. That's what I think of, and I really appreciate seeing them come to really love and accept themselves, and seeing them in the Take Two era now, sort of doing their own solo projects to develop my own self-love as well too, and really self-reflect on that and build that, and relate that to their own stories. So
That's beautiful. Oh my God, this is so good. I think we should probably take the transcript of this and write it out into a manuscript. I'm not sure we realize how deep this has already been in such a short time. This is something. This conversation. I think we would make Namjoon proud. My baby. I actually think about that a lot. Do you ever find yourself reflecting on what they would think of the choice that you're making at that moment? When we make fateful decisions in our world, we're looking at the how our choices are affecting our family members, the people around us, the people we work with. And not often do we place our own fate at the center of that, right? We tend to be on the extraneous side of it. I know that Bangtan did that for a very long time, but one of the things that Speak Yourself said to me was start with yourself first and then move your way out. That's one of the things that Jenny's conversation with Jungi said to me is start with yourself first, move your way out. And Hobie's discussion on fate actually says basically something similar. So in that sense, I'm going to play the cold piece in just a moment because literally it goes straight into this conversation. In that sense, then, if we're talking about our wellness, right, our entire wellness, and this is the symbiosis between ARMY and Bangtan, that entire dynamic is being fueled constantly by our love, their love, our love, their love. How do we keep the engine moving forward for us to continue to do good in this world through that? How do you feel that ARMY has the ability to pretty much shake up the status quo and the normal narratives of what it means to have that, to be able to make such levels of change in the world? I mean, yes. Go ahead.
Totally. I mean, we are so many, and we have this what we've learned from the boys, and this set of values that wherever we are, we left a print. When you were talking about Busan, about Lollapalooza, about this last festa, and it was a mark, it was a point in the history, because that's not what to expect about at the end of these huge events. So we showed who we are, and individually when we are like at the work or we meet new people in our family, we leave a mark based on what we are learning or what we're doing with BTS. I think that's it.
Just us sitting here right now is making a mark, right? The ripple effect. The ripple effect in trauma, because the thing is both you, Tessa. The funny thing is you, Tessa, and myself, Joanna, are all trauma people, specialists. What are the odds, right? That you get three of us. Hey, it's not that easy to find 3 trauma specialists in one go, the ripple effect of trauma, the ones that the boys went through all of those years that we've talked about. How did that affect us then in terms of our self-love? Ah, big one, huh? I don't want to be the one to answer that one because I have my concept. What do you think, Terry? The ripple effect of what they went through, it also fueled our love for them, right? How do you think that affected us as Army? How did that change us? And then, how
Well,
did
just in order to, I think, manifest our love and understanding for them, we had to love ourselves better because that was their directive and everything they said, all their concerts and everything else. It's like that was like the last word always. Love yourself. Use me. Nam June, classic example. Use me to love yourself. I learned how to love myself through you guys, and now it's you have to show. And the only way that we can show them that we're paying attention and understanding what they're saying is if we, you know, reciprocate by loving ourselves.
so that's perfect. That's exactly it. So if we take 50 million of us, even though all of us may not be OT7, etc., that's whatever it is. But if you take 20 to 50 million of us and we have that dynamic energy and we're putting it out into the universe, can we talk a little bit about what that does to change the microcosmic, you know, the microcosm of our entire world? It's science, people. It's physics. Says that if we put in a certain amount of energy into any given space, the space is changing, right? Yeah. So there we're going to look at the ripple effect from the trauma. The trauma may have been maybe a terrible one, but our support of them only kept growing and growing and growing. So anyone want to talk about that, of the effect of building on that effect and how it built? Why did it work for us? Why were we fated for this to happen is the question. Because it's never happened again. It's never happened in life. We're a unique entity and it's not going to be reproducible. And that's fine. How did we get here?
Through them, it's the only way that we could have. I mean,
I know it's a crazy question to ask, but you realize we don't ask ourselves these questions. How the heck did we get to this place? Do you know that the world, the media, is asking it constantly? How did this happen? How did they become who they are? It's a massive big question out in the world right now. And people are trying so hard to reproduce it. Isn't that amazing?
I think. Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead. You go first.
No, please go first.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, I think it's because mental health is such a taboo topic, you know, and a lot of us shy away from exposing that very delicate part of ourselves. And we'd rather mask it or hide it. And society has gotten so good at doing that, you know. And thanks to media and, ads and everything, it becomes more of a taboo that we'd rather, wear our masks than be our authentic selves. And that's what the boys had broken so successfully broken through. They have managed to kind of like in your face, it's okay to allow your mental health to surface and to it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to deal with it, and so a lot of us just and that's what's beautiful about the ripple effect is because this 7 boys from from South Korea, they seem to be just a tiny pebble in this huge world of superficial human beings kind of masking through their pains and their traumas and everything, because like I said, mental health is such a taboo topic, and they're like, you know, a pebble in the pond, and all of a sudden we're all like, oh my gosh, yeah, I can relate and I can resound to that. And a lot of us are afraid to speak out, and now we are, because the seven boys had the courage to do so.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tessa. I know you were going to say.
Yeah. You asked the question of how, kind of how we got here, how we got to this point. And, I can speak for myself, or think of my experience of sort of what really solidified me and my desire to look at the BTS experience through the mental health, mental wellness lenses. For my own personal journey, I can identify that exact moment, that exact time, which would be Yoongi and Amygdala and his performance, kind of, and that's really, really new. So that's to tell you how new that of an army I am. I appreciated all that. I appreciated all of their music. I loved it all. I followed everything. But that moment of me seeing him putting out trauma as clear cut and obvious, as beautiful, as scientifically and psychologically like perfect, like that, for me, that's my point. But I'm saying that as in, everybody has their own point, their own connection, something that that they experience with the boys and with their journey and with their songs, that solidifies it for them. And you put millions and millions of people, and then that's the whole army. But so I can't think in the scope of such a huge way, but I can reflect, like really honestly reflect on my own personal point where this really solidified it for me. And when I can really look at this through, the mental health and mental wellness lens, and I really, really appreciate the artist for making that statement of breaking down the stigma, all that you just said, breaking down that stigma, putting it out there, putting that science. I mean, you look at the music video for Amygdala, putting in, it's not just a taboo issue, really bringing the science and breaking down, the taboo of it, and put it in that personal, genuine, vulnerable touch of personal story. So.
Yoongi's deep dive into reflectively, and I say reflectively because I've spoken about the mirror concept now many times, about why I'm actually listening to Mary because she's answering us too. Thank you so much, Mary, for this. You're correct. Very beautiful. BTS taught us to love others and help them to love themselves. That is a concept. That's the ripple effect. I think she put it so succinctly, because in the long run, when we prioritize this person, right, we can then also love the people around us in a way that's much different. It's more selfless. They talk about selfless love a whole lot. And in that sense, we can help maybe by example to say, love yourself and then share that to other people. I love that concept. Yes, it brought armies together 100%. And yes, BTS is my safe space. So thank you so much, Mary. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on. I miss seeing all of you. So I almost have to stop and think about what I was going to say. When Yoongi was discussing, when he first started with August D, during that same time, we had Wings. And I want you to look back at Wings. And Wings, Wings is an entire discussion about self-awareness, about self-understanding, about self-reflection. Wings is how many songs about reflectively looking at the things that were hurting them, the things that were harming them, and that were making them lie to themselves. Jimin's Lie. Jungkook's Begin will never not be in the top songs for me. Begin is incredible because he's singing to the boys, because of you, I have the ability to begin understanding the parts of myself that I hid from myself, the parts that could have burnt down, the parts that were smeared, and I couldn't see myself. they have been giving us a slate and a window and a mirror to look within now for a long time. I mean, you look at Hobie's song Mama, Hey Mama. Guys, that was a deeply painful song about this poor child literally being abandoned and having to reconnect to a sense of self throughout his entire story. So they've been giving us that onus, first love, Yoongi's first love, about explaining to us about how the trauma with his family. Maybe I'm sorry to his mother, by the way, because I know that's not who you are today. But at the time, you're not supporting him. And then Jin's struggle to believe that he had the ability to fly, and then saying, I believe it now. I believe that I have that ability to take one step and fly. And that even if I don't find that place that I think I'm supposed to be at, that's fine. Because I'm actually learning to understand, to love who I am and be and believe that I'm in a place that I am. They've been doing this. First,
I hear you.
huh?
I hear you. Right. I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, but I
No.
know, they have some of those songs, and I know, Yoongi actually wrote that song, right, many years before. He wasn't, I believe, the amygdala. He wasn't ready to present it right.
Yeah.
So but it speaks to timing for everything.
It does.
It speaks to timing, and even if we do certain things, or we're in different phases of our own type of trauma recovery, our own type of journey.
100%.
Sometimes the timing for things is everything. Sometimes it's just not the right time yet to totally reveal something, or you're not quite ready to be in that space of whatever. And I just was really able to appreciate his timing at this point.
We literally call our show a Higem because of that.
I know I'll be trying to watch all of your past Higems and everything. I'm still working on it.
The thing behind you is spelled wrong. I'll fix it one day. I don't even know how I ended up putting that one up there, but no, a Higem, and as I explained to you, you know that I started this organization all those years ago because of the loss of a brother to mental illness. Mm-hmm. What Yoongi's journey is my personal edict, in a sense, of me being able to also reveal to myself who I am, and my being okay with being able to love this person in spite of all of the trauma and the tragedy and the loss and the mistakes and the errors and the not perfection. The imperfection, I think, was the worst part of it for a very, very long time. So this is great. I love it. We're just honored. Like, Wildflower, my dears, is a traumatic song. Mm-hmm. It's a love song, but it is traumatic. If you're listening to what Namjoon is actually saying about death and rebirth and how he has to get to this, I couldn't even listen to it a second time. It killed me. It was it wounded me. I couldn't, it's as much as amygdala wounded me, and it was fine because I needed that wounding. That was my journey, right? That's how we heal in trauma. So, Army, just to understand, we're not in conflict. I think their songs are so deep. They're so meaningful. They're so purposeful. They're so cathartic and life-changing. Mm-hmm. They've been doing this for 7+ years. Mm-hmm. It brings me to just awe. I think we answered the question. How is it that was possible for us? How is it fated? They gave us a path to walk on, and we walked. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. So I'm sorry. Like, that was emotional. So the next thing we were talking about is how has BTS's commitment to spreading a message of unity, love yourself, and acceptance influenced you as ARMY? Let me see if I could find it. Yeah, this one. So, audience, anyone who's out there who wants to answer, please, Mary, if you're here, please answer this one. How has BTS's commitment to spreading a message of unity, love yourself, and acceptance influenced you? Everyone knows my story. So. No answer?
We were reading Mary's answer.
Oh. Oh, I didn't even see the thing. I'm so sorry. You guys can put it up, you know. Oh. You know what I said about we're fated? Fate brought us together. Fate brought us together. I question with Terry a lot why we do what we do. Are we doing it? Is it meaningful? Is it helping people? Is it getting to people? But then, you know how I always say all it takes is one person to make it worth everything under the sun and more? It's all it takes. One person. Mary, I'm so sorry for your loss. I believe me, I get it. Believe me, I get it. It's how I survived the loss of two brothers, as you all know, and still survive every day. So, okay. So for each of you, this is the story I'd like you to share with us as we move forward. How has BTS's commitment to spreading a message of unity, love yourself, and acceptance influenced you on your path? It's a very big question. I never ask small questions. Sorry. They're never going to be simple coming from me. I can say the fact that every one of you is sitting here today, it's influenced you because you're sitting here and you're sharing your story. And Joanna's writing amazing books, you know, that are helping the universe. And Tessa's helping people who've been through hell. And Terry's my backbone. Without Terry, we wouldn't have this company. And Flora is my arm. You know, it's true. You know, life hands you something. And with the boys' grace, we were able, and I'm grateful. That's the influence. It's not about me sharing my story anymore. I think it's more about all the things that are coming to me and that I'm grateful for because of them. Oh.
Yeah, they are like they
I know.
between the love yourself as like as a phrase, as a word, shows us that we come first before starting to love others. And also they put that phrase on our map of words so we can reflect on that. And they also between acceptance, which is a difficult thing to do. I mean, we are like we live in a society that we are judged frequently, and we are so surrounded by stereotypes. And accepting you as who you are is a very difficult thing to do. It's a difficult journey. I've starting to do that, to accept who I am, what I like, what I don't like. I'm starting to love me as who I am. As Namjo said, with all of our scars and all of our defects and all of our problems. I don't know how to put all into words right now. I know it's been a short journey, and the last months were for me like a high speed. But I feel like I left Madrid for Jungi's concert as one person, and I have returned as someone else. And I'm happy with me right now. I think I'm in a better place. I'm healthier than ever. I'm more me than who I ever was.
So beautiful. Oh my gosh. I know. This is a really emotional conversation. I think I knew this was going to be like this. So, thank you guys. We're getting so many beautiful purple hearts. I'm so happy. It's amazing when we get purple hearts and conversations. They're the best. Terry, what do you think?
Well, I always say that my journey hasn't been as hard as a lot of people. And then I start thinking, well, but isn't that relative? Because what might not seem hard to me, if I told that story to somebody else, they might go, oh my God. So I've stopped that thought process. But for me, it's more about all that I gain, rather just by helping the other people and talking to the other people about BTS, because I did a lot of work before I met them, and when I met them, that reinforced the work that I had already done on myself and helped me do a more thorough and positive work looking at them. And then they get to be a proof that, especially because they're so young, that you can say, these 7 guys are like, I mean, I'm even older than their grandparents. And for them to think the way that they think really gives me faith that anybody at any age can do things to help themselves.
We really need to do a transcript of this conversation. This is just, ugh. Aw. See? Thank you. Yes. I think that we're having trouble even talking because we're all just very deeply feeling the emotions of these conversations right now. So, it's. I take it back because I often have to aw. No, it's never going to be over, Mary. Jungkook told us that already. He gave us that edict last year in Vegas. He's like, it's never going to be over. It's we have to, Oh, I love this conversation. Aw. And the thing is that we're not younger. We're a little bit on the some of us are on the a little older side, and getting to this place, having worked through a lot of cultural and social oppressions that we've talked about in the past shows, to be able to find love and equate it to our fate, so that our fate becomes something positive versus negative. A lot of people see fate so negatively in this world. That's not what it is. It's what you allow it to be based on your learning. It's really hard, so please don't get me wrong on this one. Namjoon has said it many times. Yoongi said it many times. Learning to be grateful for the good, the bad, and the ugly is a very, very, very hard place to get to. Very. And you
And
don't always.
why is it that you would want to say that if something bad happened, it was fate, and then if something good happens, it's something else? I mean, it's all fate when you think about it. So why it's just being, to me, that's being too negative to say, well, all that stuff happened because it was fated to happen. Well, all the good stuff that came after, all the good things that you learned because of the things that happened to you that may not have been the best, that's fate too. And that's good.
Yes. That's love and that's fate. And it all centers back to the love that we have to have for ourselves first. When we look at the fate in the world around us, we have to center it first from inside and then move it out. Again, back to the conversation Jin had with, as you can tell, that conversation that Jin had with Yoongi has had a massive ripple effect in my existence. Massive. And the first conversation Yoongi ever had when he wrote the last, and we started to learn about, when I realized he was talking about his suicide attempts, when I realized that he was sharing the depth of the darkness that he'd gone through, and he was now saying this is what it is to live, through the hell of OCD and the hell of anxiety and panic and depression. When I realized that he was sharing this story so openly, and then when I realized in the lives that they were sharing them so openly. I said, okay, was I fated? I didn't say this to myself, but over time I realized, was I fated to hear these boys? Because I needed to hear these stories? Because I was ready to find love for myself? So fate said, here you go. Here they are. Is that not the same thing that we're hearing from these armies right now who are sharing their story? BTS gave me happiness, hope, new memories, and hope that everything was going to be okay. You know? We got lots of emojis on that one. These are the stories. So, well, Shreya, she says Yoongi's the strongest. I am not a person who does that here. Obviously, we all have biases, and that's cool. But he'd be the first one to tell you that there's somebody else stronger than him, and then the next one will be the strong. Will tell you this, the other one's stronger than me, and then the other one will say the other one's stronger than me. They go in this circle. Jimin's the cutest. No, Jimin's also one of the freaking strongest that there is, considering that the hell that he went through with his mental illness and learning to love and prioritize himself was not something that he even achieved until 2 years ago. And so we got Set Me Free, because Set Me Free was like, you know what, all of you, I'm done with that. I'm prioritizing self-love, and I'm letting fate be what it is for me, right? Okay, I feel like I'm the only one talking, people.
Because we agree with all you say.
All right, so we're going to take a few moments, and we're going to play that one little short excerpt from this, and then we're going to talk about this. I said that this show would go past midnight, so we could see if we could get the book drop. So, Terry, you want to check while I get this ready?
Okay.
This is such a good conversation, man. I feel sometimes like, oh, thank you. So we're going to go like this, and then, okay, ready? Can we put all our stuff on mute so we can hear? Thank you so much. Actually, I'm going to go back like a second. I think here.
있으니까. 근데 있는 걸 없다고 할 수는 없는 그런 느낌? 그러니까 이제 왜 꽃은 그냥 있는 거잖아요. 그런 것처럼 사랑이 나의 안에 있기 때문에 이게, 그리고 뭐 사실 이제 사랑과 사람, 그 다음에 리브랑 러브가 다 철자 하나만 다르잖아요. 근데 그것은 분명히 되게 근원적인 차원에서 맞닿아 있지 않을까. 그래서 풀이나 꽃처럼 있는 걸 없다고 할 수는 없기 때문에 그냥 있는 걸 인정하는 느낌이고, 소셜 시대가 되면서 증오나 혐오 감정을 내보이는 것이 너무 쉬워졌잖아요. 근데 누군가를 너무 미워하거나 증오하는 에너지를 보면 약간 징그러운 것 같아요. 그래서 물론 당연히 슬프고 증오의 얘기도 할 수 있지만 결국에는 사랑을 말하고 사랑과 긍정을 전파하는 것이,
맞습니다.
그것이 미덕이라고 생각하기 때문에.
네, 맞습니다.
사랑.
Isn't that something? Had you gotten a chance to watch it after I had said to go back and watch it? That's one heck of a statement, isn't it? Oh, okay. That's fine. That's okay. People can go back and look at it themselves. I'm okay with that. So, all right, my dears. So we are coming. I don't know if we're coming slowly to the close. I have no idea if you were able to see it, because there's a block. We have to be very careful. That's why I think I paid like 35 seconds. And even that's risky because of copyright issues. So usually when they've put something out, it's not their site, right? It's cold site. So it should be okay. But we'll see. Hopefully it won't cause a problem. We have to be so careful. Okay, my dear. So yeah, Namjoon is very handsome, Shreyashi. Very much so. Yes, I think Tessa talked about this line earlier today. Future's going to be okay, okay, okay. Look at the mirror and see no pain. This line is a direct correlation to fake love. 100,000% to the fractured self. And if you remember the show we did the other day, Joanna, about the fractured self, the fractured dislocated self, and how I was saying it was like the fractured mirror. And then that we can learn to look at the mirror and see, like, love the pieces of ourselves that we see in the mirror.
Yeah. It's funny how you mentioned earlier in this session about the mirror effect in psychology. The mirror effect is somewhat negative in the sense that, like, in psychology, when we say the mirror effect, it's we perceive ourselves in a way, we how people see us is how we see ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But it's amazing how, like, even in this lyrics, I look at the mirror and I see no pain. They kind of switch that into more of a self exploration type of thing.
Yeah.
Instead of looking that mirror and seeing myself as how others see me, it's more of I'm looking at this mirror and I'm digging deeper into who I am. I'm seeing, really who I am from the inside. And it's beautiful how they had a play, they're so intelligent. They're just
Mm-hmm.
geniuses of how they have a play of words, and now that we're mentioning about, like, using mirrors and, like, our fractured selves, and I think it's one of the beautiful things. The question a while ago was, like, our commitment to spreading unity and love, and this discussion with RM, and he was talking about love and why it's necessary. Um, that's one of the things that really jumped out and up to me when I was watching RM talk about um, that topic with cold. I think it's easier for us to spread love, the message of love and unity, because we're able to explore ourselves and love ourselves. It's and again, it's love and faith. It's love and faith. So I'm so happy to also see everybody interacting and engaging. We love your messages, so thank you.
Bye, Shashi. Tell your grandmother you're talking about love and faith and spiritual connections, and I think she might be okay with that conversation that you're having, especially since we're all aunties. Tell her there's an auntie talking about love and spiritual connection and faith. She might like to know it. I oftentimes think, oh my God, what do people think about a 57-year-old Indian lady out here doing conversations about BTS? And I'm like, oh well, if helps anybody to get to be validated, then cool. No, I love what you said. So that's a beautiful space for us to be able to understand. I think we know that the love we have. Thank you. Yes, I told her. Da. Tell her I'll talk with her anytime, huh? Okay. Um, so I think we wanted to be able to prove or show that the love that we have is so strong and so untethered. It's not tethered to anything. Love on an average gets tethered to so much other things. That's not just pure. But I think about JK as being this pure absolute love. They all are, don't get me wrong. But I've always seen JK as literally a heart, a beating heart. No matter what I do, when I look at him, all I see is breath. That's what I feel like. I swear. That's what I feel like. I could just take a breath and feel my heart just beat happy because he gives me that. That's not something I can find everywhere, right? That's untethered love because it's just very pure. As ARMY and BTS ARMY, the love that we're having becomes that type of love. It's a pure dynamic energy that fuels us. It fuels our forward momentum. It fuels our ability to love ourselves and accept who we are. And it then allows us to create that ripple effect because we're moving it forward. And it's not the paying it forward, it's just being. Like Tessa says, becoming, right, Tessa?
Yes, it's a very natural effect that would obviously just flow from us once it's really within us. So
yeah. I love being ARMY. I love it. It's probably one of the single strongest influences for healing in my entire life, and it will always be. I think about that a lot. When the boys say they're going to be 80, I won't be here anymore because I'll be past 100 at that point, and that's cool. But if I have the grace of being able to have them, for as long as I have them, then I'm happy. I'm happy for as long as I've had them. So okay, so let's close out the topic because I think that was great. I think we covered almost everything. We did the solo member. Now, I think you spoke about Tessa. You spoke about Jimin Set Me Free. Do you want to talk about that really quickly before we close? And then Joanna wanted to talk about those songs. So, as a whole, what messages are we receiving from each member's solo journey? So, you guys go ahead and close out with that. So,
Oh,
Tessa,
I think, yeah, someone had already sort of touched on Jimin and the Set Me Free era. And yes, and I just absolutely love, the message and his music video too, the dance elements of it, and as well, and just having just some insight of really understanding how the struggles that he had as I'm learning about it as he went through. That is like an anthem for myself as well too. Just for him to be able to come out and just do it and just bear it like that, literally, was very powerful and very moving. And when you talk about being set free in different ways and back to sort of just loving myself place that I've come to with BTS as well. Setting yourself free is also, this is more of a sort of trauma related thing. Setting, and you talked about disappointment and stuff earlier on, setting things in your past free as well too. Setting your inner child free. Lots of different things when it comes to setting free. There's a lot you can look back at and give up or give way or validate. So I really resonate with that song with Jimin. And it's a sort of a personal anthem for me as well. That's all I have to say.
I thought 100% because Set Me Free Yoongi song was an anthem for me. It was something that I allowed myself to cry to myself for and with. When I knew I was struggling, I would just turn it on, listen to it because I knew I was asking the same thing. It almost made me understood. I remember I said earlier about the dream motif being here for the entirety of from the beginning to the what not end, but the beginning to into chapter 2, and here we are. And they started take 2 with the dream again. I think it's going to be endless. That anthem of setting me free and having the dream as a fundamental principle of self and self value. Oof, such a good conversation. And then Joanna, you wanted to talk about those few songs. I talked about Wildflower, but that's
Yeah, no, I think each of the solos that we have so far, the 4 albums that came out, has this one unifying message. For me, I think it's freedom and liberation. I mean, they talk about different things, and our boys, they produce content with so much intentionality. Each lyric, each song, each beat, how it's placed in the album, how it's coming out in the music videos, and how it's going to be projected live and stuff. They are so intentional about that. And so I think the main underlying message with all 4 albums that's come out so far, I think it's oh sorry 3, it's really 4, yeah, it's a message of freedom and liberation, like with J-Hope. Like all of his songs is talking about fueling that passion, like, yeah, I've done all of these things, but there's more, and I'm free to just pursue that. Let's fire it. Let's keep that passion alive, and we're free to do that. We have the liberty to do that. And then RM talks about, like, forgiving the bad choices that you've had when you were younger, and it's such a powerful message. His songs are just so reflective of, like, yeah, you were lonely, and yeah, you felt like you can't move, but you have to keep moving, and all these songs It's just it's reflection of like
Mhm.
you can be immature while you're young, but you can move on, you can forgive, and you can move on, and you can keep moving, you know. And then of course we know Jimin's face is all about like, I'm breaking free, set me free. I'm like this courageous self now. I'm you know, I'm more mature and I'm more courageous. And then of course Yoongi's closing out, you know, all of my traumas. That's over. I'm done. I've dealt with them. I'm moving on. So I think it's really the liberty and the freedom underlying message.
I mean, don't forget Jin. We have the astronaut. I mean, he's going to have an album coming out, but that song for him was, and that's perfect. I love it. This rap is great. It's a rap. That's what we're doing. It's his song was actually not just it's not just this free-willing song about love for Army and Army's love for him. If you think about the concept of the astronaut from the moment that we saw the very first video where the astronaut is free falling in you know in space and is facing trauma and is facing danger and is facing all of these unknowns and absolutes, and then you see his Jangu, his little dog, pass him. You realize it's memory that's also passing him because there's little things happening in that video if you remember it. And here he is crashing to earth, completely dispassionate, completely disconnected from his emotions, and only learning to find out who he is and how to connect to the fact that he can have love and can feel love because Army helped him to find that. That's song is it's the same. It's in the same way. They're telling their journeys, I can't wait to get his album when it comes out. It's probably going to make everybody cry a million times over. So, and I know Cookie's song is going to do the same. Just the title alone did that to me. So, these boys, you're right. There's nothing they do that's not intentioned. It's so purposeful, meaningful, and so fully intentioned. They write a script to make sure that we're written into it. They write a script to make sure that our thoughts, our hopes, our dreams, our beliefs, our fears are written into it. At least that's the way I see it. I always feel like when they drop something, they've thought about so dearly about what we're going to think. And like, even I was looking back at B album again, and I was looking back at, I was telling Terry in research for the paper, I'm looking at all of the, the live drops that they do, right, for the comebacks and the shows that they do where they talk about the albums. And I've watched the last 5 album ones, and you should go back and watch them. There's such a strong common themality and the maturation in how they speak about their songs as they grow it's pretty profound. So, all right, my loves, this is the one show I allowed us to go past. We already talked about Terry. We have discussed the body. That you want to do that? Is that you in red, Terry?
Yeah.
You want to read that real quick, and then we're going to close out?
Okay. So we've discussed how BTS's book is actually proof in written form. Mm-hmm. Not having seen it yet, I'm going to assume that it's going to be a reflection of all that we see in their body of musical work, and it'll just be in written form. So we'll see soon, hopefully.
And then what does Beyond the Story represent in our relationship with Bangtan? You also answered that one.
It's a promise of eternity, of more than. It's not just the music and the dance, but they're words that signify a growth or a relationship that transcends anything that's come before. We'll probably never see it again in our time. A bond of self-love and trust never to be equaled.
Okay.
Sorry, that makes me cry.
I know. You made everybody cry. Thank you so much. Oh my God. What messages do you think they're giving us as we move forward through the military years? That's you too. Keep going.
Well, you told me to fill it out. So
I did. You keep going.
I said that some things will not be the same because of the changes they have gone through. But the changes experienced in the past, they only lead to strengthening the bond of everyone being together, even if in the ways they are together change. And then
very profound, man.
I read a lot of Nam June stuff before I wrote this.
Oh my God. And then how the book became a source of connection and support.
It's a reference point. We'll read their words and access their feelings and the effect that they have on us. We'll come together to help each other get through any hardships that still remain. We'll all have the same guidebook, but being different people, the message may vary, and our dialogue will guide us to find the meanings that work best for us.
This is so beautiful. Okay. And God, I'm so proud of everybody. I am so proud, Terry. And you thought you didn't want to do these shows. Look at you. Just look at you. I love this quote. Is this the quote you put up, Tessa, from RM?
I think it was Terry, right?
Yeah, I found that one.
Okay, perfect. If you want to put any of that. So Namju, okay, so Terry, we're on the same path that's set since we're born, but I still believe we can change some things. So I believe in my faith, but I still don't believe in my fate. That's the statement. That is the one. That is the it. Nothing is predetermined. We have the ability through the depth of our connection and the depth of the love and the intention of what we choose and prioritize in terms of self-love to be able to walk a path, a fated path, but one that's not predetermined. As we started out the show saying, we can manifest things, we can manifest change. We can. We have to allow ourselves to manifest it, to believe that things are not predestined and that are predetermined, that actually we have the ability, once we claim ownership of our own narratives, like the boys have shown us to do, that we then have the ability to rewrite that entire story and all of it. So this was a good show. This was so beautiful. Oh, I'm so sorry. I was hoping the book would have dropped during this time. So
yeah, I'm wondering if it will drop because it's Audible and they know where you're logging in from. I wonder if it doesn't go out until your time zone, because technically I'm Central, so it's still not the 9th for another half an hour.
Yes, so but Flora's in Spain and Flora, do you see the book?
No, I ordered. I have them next week, I guess.
You didn't do the Audible? Okay.
No.
Okay, Army.
I like to read. So.
No, I ordered both, but remember, I thought that I still very strongly believe. I don't want to say it out loud in case I'm wrong. I have a very personal belief that we're getting something different in the audiobook than we're getting in the written format book. Because it looks like they're formatted differently. So, okay, Army, I just dropped the Google form for you to be able to enter your testimonies to us. It's our year-long project that we're going to be creating a collage of stories, images, sound. If you want to turn in lyrics, if you want to turn in music, your songs, whatever you want to send to us, whatever you believe represents how Bangtan has been a source of healing, unity, and love and self-acceptance in your life. And just share those stories with us, because we want to be able to share it with them over time. And this is going to become a manifest. Hopefully at some point in life we're going to figure out, based on how much we get in, we're hoping to get at least 700 testimonies. 7 times 10. So it's not 70. I went with 700. We could take 777 too. I'll be happy with that because that's a good number. So help us, Army, get to at least 777 testimonies in the next year so that we can bring this out to the boys and show them how meaningful they've been in changing our lives. So thank you so much to our guests for being on. Does anyone have any last minute words or anything you want to say about any projects coming up? I know Joanna has her book coming up soon in a show that we do in the future. Hopefully we're going to talk about that book a little bit because I know you're towards the final phases of that. So I'm looking forward to that so much. And hopefully my book will be coming out soon. Oh, yes. What was it? What was it we said we were going to say now? I even forgot. I laughed. It was so perfect. Like, how did I forget this? Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Apabangpo. Love to everyone. Understandably, it's going to be about 2 weeks before we come back to you with a full live show. I'm going to be out on the street, believe it or not, over at San Diego Comic-Con, and I will be doing me too. Very much. San Diego Comic-Con will be coming to you live and doing some interviews from the Diversely Geek side of the world. So if you want to see what I do from the parent company side, pay attention because July 18th week, I'll be in San Diego doing interviews and talks and discussions from the other side of the fandom world. And you get to see me I'll still be in BTS mode, but still, I'll walk around San Diego Comic-Con and going, do you know BTS? I'm going to bring my best Jin possible. Do you know BTS? Do you know BTS? My daughter's going to be like, Mom, really? You know me. You know I'm going to do it. I may not have done it 5 years ago, but you know what? I'm a different person today because I have that, you find that confidence with them. So, got to continue BTSing. You do the same? Yes! I BTS everywhere. Thank you guys so much. All right, my love. Thank you so much for being on. Abamangpo, everyone. Happy Army Day. Te shukamida, Army. Te shukamida. Yes, me too. I swear every single day of my working life, my pins are all BTS at work. And I almost always have something BTS. Okay, we got to go. We got to go, my love. But probably in the time. Bye, guys. And make sure and share out the Google form. Everybody, please. It's really important we get that done. Bye. Lots of love, everyone.